Master Sword Link hard counters Astor. Let me show you why. It's aces. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Weak point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Alright, we got that stun. Stasis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Do this combo. Bam. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bam! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Stun. Stasis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he's dead. Weak point him. GG. Welcome to our one-handed Link guide. Alright, let's start with the basics and work our way up from there. So first off, you press Y to do light attacks. And you can press it multiple times to do a combo. You press X to do a heavy attack. You can press and hold X to do a charged heavy attack. And you can press ZR to fire your bow. Now, if you fire your bow in midair, like this, you'll fire more arrows faster for even more damage. Very nice. We'll come back to that later. But how do you actually do combos? Well, if you look at Link's description here, you can see the regular attacks and strong attacks rows. We're going to pay attention to that. You see the arrows? You always want to start with the light attack, which is Y. And depending on how many times you press Y before you press X, you'll get a different outcome. That's how the combos work. You start with light attacks, and then you finish with a heavy, okay? So if you do one Y and then press X, you'll get one outcome. If you do two Ys and then you press X, you'll get a different outcome. Let me show you what that looks like. So if I press Y once and then X, you get that slashy uppercut. Pretty nice. It puts you in the air. That's how I showed you the aerial bow attack. If you do two Ys and then an X, two lights and a heavy, you get this move when you're on your shield and you slide around. Pretty nice. If you do three Ys and then an X, three lights heavy, and then a heavy, you get that spin, which is pretty cool. But it gets better. As it says right here in the tooltip, you can hold down X and then release to unleash an extra attack during a combo. So what does that mean? So if I do Y and then X, I get this. But if I do Y and then press and hold X, I charge the sword and then I can release it and then get that extra attack at the end. Very, very nice. Now, if I do it for two Y and then X, I press and hold X, I get this extra charged attack. You get that slash. Very, very nice. If I do it for three, Y, 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 press and hold X, I get that spin like before, but I get an extra spin. Now, I do also want to mention that something you unlock later on in the game. It's the third message at the bottom. Perform a strong attack, and the extra attack that follows it will be enhanced. If you're just starting the game, you're not going to see some of these moves I'm doing. So, for example, when I do the first one, and the shield, you see how it sends out that shockwave? You won't have that at the beginning of the game. You'll unlock that later. You'll just have a singular shockwave. But it's fine. The moves are effectively the same. You just get an extra attack with them that does extra damage, and potentially a little bit of extra CC for weak points, but we'll get into that later. Now, for those later on in the game, let me explain some other techniques, or if you're not there yet, you can look forward to them later. If you do 4 lights, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hold it, you do a spin that sucks enemies in, and then by holding down X to charge it up, you can release it to do a follow-up attack that devastates anything that was sucked in. Very, very nice. It's my favorite way to clear groups of enemies in the arena. Actually, why don't I go ahead and show you? So you've got all these moblins, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. If you do the 4 move, it sucks them in, which is very, very nice. And then you can follow up with that. It literally killed everything that got caught in, which was almost everything. Very, very powerful move. And then finally, the 5 move, which you saw me use repeatedly at the beginning of this video. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This move, that poke staggered him. Do you see how that made his weak point appear? And this one staggers too, which is very, very nice for CC. Alright, so those are basically all of the Link combos, but let's actually take them a step further, right? Because I explained that when you use the bow, it actually shoots more arrows when you're in midair. So when you're doing this move, this uppercut, which is the X and then, or sorry, the Y and then press and hold X, yeah, you could go to the ground and follow up with that shield move, but instead what you can do is aerial strikes. Aerial attacks are very, very important. They can actually do some weak point damage if you hit the enemy in the head, and they can do some bonus damage accordingly as well, and they keep you suspended in air a little bit longer, which can keep you safe from most enemy attacks. And not only that, you could do 3 light attacks and then follow up with a heavy like that. That works. That is something you could do. But what I find to be better, go into the air, slash, 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 and then follow up with the bow. And that's a really good nuke. So let me go ahead and show you what I mean. So come here, Mr. Moblin. So I'm gonna cryo missile. So you can go like this, in air. 1, 2, 3. And then bam, his weak point gauge got obliterated. And I'm not even using my best sword. This sword is level 1. Easy. But that's not actually even the best combo to use it with. I very rarely use the single one. Even in the early game, I wouldn't use it very much. Now, what about the 2? The 2 move? You can use this. It's a nice way to push mobs and then follow up and slash them. In the early game, before you unlock any more combos, it's alright. It's alright. I already told you the 4 is the best one for dealing with groups of mobs, this. Because you suck up so many enemies, and then you can follow up with this move, which just deletes them. I really love how it pulls enemies into you. Unlike the 3 spin, which pushes enemies away from you, the 4 spin pulls them into you. So it's really good if you're on a point, for example, you need to suck together a bunch of mobs and kill them as quickly as possible. The 4 move is amazing. But when you start the game, you don't have it. So you can do the 2. You can do this. That one's decent. Now the 3 move is what I would recommend you use the most often in the early game. And I'm going to show you exactly why. So we already saw before. 1, 2, 3, spin, and then release for another spin, right? Okay, it's like, okay, it looks cool, you know, it's a nice little area of effect thing. Nothing too special. Well, let me actually change your mind about it. Why is it so special? What makes it so good? I'll send this guy's magnesis back and I'll show you. So here's what you can do. 1, 2, 3, spin into him, and then, but look, we're in midair, light, 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 and then bo 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 bo, and then finish. That's what makes it so strong. The spin move at the very end of it actually puts you in midair. So you can do 3 aerial light attacks and then a bow spam. And then that does a lot of damage and potential weak point damage depending on what you're fighting. So let's go ahead and demonstrate. So let's wait for this guy to become vulnerable, right? So he's gonna miss this move. 1, 2, 3. Spin. 1, 2, 3. You see how that made his weak point gauge appear? Even though his weak point was already gone? Because I headshotted it with my sword. That sounds weird. I hit his head with the sword. It was a critical hit. It actually exposed his weak point gauge so that I could then nuke him with the bow because that slows down time while you're midair. Very, very handy move. That's what I would use in the early game. Now, of course, as I said, when you unlock the 4 combo later, that is my preferred way to deal with standard enemies. It's really, really good. You just absolutely annihilate groups of enemies. You pull them into yourself and you do that finisher. It's really, really good. And then when you get the 5 move is the best way to stun lock bosses, like you saw me do to Astor at the beginning of this video. The 4 move does it too. I'll show you. Okay, well that's a natural. Okay, so his weak point is gone, right? His weak point is gone. Let me show you that it does make his gauge appear. So it does make his gauge appear, right? And it can do some damage. In the late game, it's not going to be as much. This is a basic moblin, of course. But the 5 move will do more, and it'll do it like faster because you don't have to do that long spinning animation. So let me go ahead and kill this guy, and I'll show you. So let me show you how the 5 combo can stun. You can see the poke causes the weak point gauge to appear. And the slam also causes the weak point gauge to appear. So if I wanted to capitalize, I could stasis them to keep them locked in that. And then they're broken. And then one thing to note about the slam, I do a little bit of a cancel so I can get to my follow-up attack faster. So at the end of this combo is the slam, right? So I could wait for that animation to finish and then attack again, but what I actually do, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I do this slam and then immediately dodge into the enemy to cancel that animation. It only saves like, what, a quarter of a second, but you know, every little bit helps. It's just worth mentioning. Now, of course, it's also worth mentioning that one of the easiest and most reliable ways to create an opening that you can then follow up with a stun lock combo is to use your special. Your special will immediately get someone into a vulnerable weak point gauge position where you can stasis. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 if he was still alive. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as for how many attacks to do, you can usually get in a full 7-hit combo. Then I usually do like 3 or 4 attacks. You have to gauge it. You have to guess. But you gotta pick that up over time. You always have enough time to get at least a 7-hit combo. Obviously, if you broke someone and then you had to like run up to them and then start, then account for that. Like use your brain, use logic to figure out how much time you think you have. Because if you take too long, the weak point gauge will wear off and then they'll just straight up attack you again. Okay, so of course you gotta be careful about that. Now it is worth mentioning, like you saw in the start of the video, of course my weapon of choice is the Master Sword. What's most noteworthy about it is that when you're at full HP, it sends out projectiles, which is pretty cool, and that projectile damage does stack with the melee damage, as I'll show you here. Okay, full HP Master Sword. Let's see how many slashes it takes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what was that, 25? I believe that was 25. Alright, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That was what, like 34 hits compared to 25? Yeah, no, so there's clearly a damage difference between being at full HP or not, which means that the projectile damage does stack with the blade damage. Another very nice feature of the Master Sword. Now, it is worth mentioning that I do have a damage at full hearts plus 8% modifier on the Master Sword, but that's not enough to account for the difference between 25 hits and 33. There's definitely more at play. The projectile damage does stack with the blade damage. And also, the Master Sword is insanely good at countering Astor's minions. It immediately staggers them and causes the weak point gauges to appear, as you'll see here. Bring the minions, I'll show you the Master Sword eats them up. Just so easy to break. Literally any basic attack will break them. Like, let me show you. So that was the Daruk one. Where's Mifa? Look, basic attacks stun off them. Yeah, Master Sword absolutely counters these minions. If they're ever a problem for you, just pull out Link, equip them with the Master Sword, they get instantly deleted. It's insane. Now let's go ahead and talk about modifiers. So for modifiers, I use attack speed. Why? Well, okay, there's the obvious reason. The faster you attack, the more damage you do. Yes, that's right, but there's more to it than that. We're doing the very long combos. We're doing the 4-hit combo and the 5-hit combo quite frequently. We want to be able to get through them as quickly as possible. So it's all about getting into those later combos fast. I would, instead of the strong attack damage one, I would have another attack speed if I could. None of these have attack speed, so I'd have to farm some more to be able to max that out. Now, it is worth mentioning the 2 at the bottom, damage at full hearts plus 8% and healer percentage of damage dealt. Those are both locked to the Master Sword. You cannot change them. You cannot remove them. Like if I try to remove the seal, it will not let me. I'll show you. I can remove those. I can't. I'm going down. I can't make it go further. That's as far down as I can go. So you can't remove those two. You get those when you like one of them. The healer percentage of damage dealt, that's at level 30. The damage of full hearts, I can't remember if that's at 25 or 20. One of the two. But yeah. That's where those come from, so you can't change them. But all the other ones, I do highly recommend putting attack speed, because that means you'll get through your combo quicker, which is very important for stun locking bosses, because the quicker you can get that staggering weak point hit from the 5 combo, then the more reliably you can keep the stun lock chain going, and you can easily finish off bosses. Very, very handy. Now, I did play through most of the game without a single attack speed modifier, so you don't have to have it, but there will be some enemies that might give you a bit of trouble. It might feel really tight, or maybe like if there's like 5 possible moves they could do the second they snap out of it, maybe 1 or 2 of those is fast enough to interrupt you, and the other ones aren't. So then it's just if you're lucky or if you're not. That was my experience with it. If you can stack attack speed, you'll more reliably be able to repeatedly complete the combo. But don't feel like you have to do it, really. I didn't care about modifications for most of the game, which is why I don't have the best ones right now. But yeah, if you wanted to optimize, I would say stack attack speed. And I would say for a lot of characters, that's a really good strategy. But definitely for Link, you want to stack attack speed. It's very, very handy. And that's going to be it for that. If you like this video, please leave a like and comment. It does help out a lot. I do upload a new video every single day and also stream to this channel, so make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out. But that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you had fun, and I'll catch you next time.